Everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country, that's back to you, far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once? This
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
have you said thank
Even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you can...
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country's in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No, you've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military equipment, and your men are brave, but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have our military equipment, if you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this.
Again,
I tell you.
just say thank you.
I said a lot of times to American people.
Accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's very important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards. You're buried there. Your people are dying. You're running low on soldiers. Listen, you're running low on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing. And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go, and I want this. Look. If you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
With guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't with me.
For you what
that wasn't with me. That was with a guy named Biden, who was not a smart person. That was with Obama.
It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is, Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to Mr. Vice President. I'm sorry.
It's going to be a tough deal to make, because the attitudes have to change.
What if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia breaks peace talks? What do you do then? I understand that it's a heated conversation right now.
What are you saying?
She's asking, what if Russia breaks the ceasefire?
What if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now? Okay? What if they broke it? I don't know. They broke it with Biden, because Biden, they didn't respect him. They didn't respect Obama. They respect me. Let me tell you, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt where they used him and Russia. Russia. You ever hear of that deal? That was a phony Hunter Biden, Joe Biden scam. Hillary Clinton, Shifty Adam Schiff. It was a Democrat scam. And he had to go through that. And he did go through it. We didn't end up in a war. And he went through it. He was accused of all that stuff. He had nothing to do with it. It came out of Hunter Biden's bathroom. It came out of Hunter Biden's bedroom. It was disgusting. And then they said, oh, the laptop from hell was made by Russia. The 51 agents. The whole thing was a scam. And he had to put up with that. He was being accused of all that stuff. All I can say is this. He might have broken deals with Obama and Bush, and he might have broken them with Biden. He did, maybe. Maybe he didn't. I don't know what happened. But he didn't break them with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if you can make a deal. The problem is, I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. We're looking for peace. We're not looking for somebody that's going to sign up a strong power and then not make peace because they feel emboldened, and that's what I saw happening. I'm looking for peace. We're not looking to go into a 10-year war and play games. We want peace. And it was just my impression that if we do that, if we sign up, he's looking for something that I'm not looking for. He's looking to go on and fight, fight, fight. We're looking to end the death. 2,000 people died this week. Soldiers, more than that, but 2,000 approximately people died this week. Young Ukrainians and Russians. And somebody would say, why do you care about Ukraine and Russian soldiers? I care about them. I care about everybody.
Do you want peace? And if he had the opportunity to go back to the White House right now, would you do it?
No. First of all, we want peace. That's why I'm in the United States. That's why I visited President Trump. And thanks for invitation again. The deal on minerals is the first step to security guarantees. It's meant for the peace, closer to peace. That's why I'm here. And we have tough situation. To understand it is to be in Ukraine. You saw it, Brad. You was once. Thank you again. So I think that's very important to understand what's going on. But I respect my soldiers and our people, our civilians who work and support our warriors. I can't say just stop. Nobody will stop because everybody afraid that Putin will come back tomorrow. We want just and lasting peace. It's true. We want security guarantees. We raise this topic about NATO the quickest way, but not all the countries are on this side. I said, okay, if not NATO, nobody is pushing. If not NATO, let's build NATO in Ukraine. That's my position. Europeans are ready to have contingents on our territory, boots on the ground. United States thinks maybe to help, maybe USA backstop, have to be just to guarantee that they are with Europeans. Look at Europe, it's strong, it became stronger, but they also want to have allies like the United States. That's what I said. I just want to understand what the peace. It's not my question, Brad. This is the question from all our people.
Indeed it was. President Trump kicking Zelenskyy out of the White House shortly after that, canceling their joint press conference. No rare minerals deal was signed, and the White House staffers, well, they eat the lunch that Trump and Zelenskyy were supposed to dine on. President Trump posting on Truth Social, it is amazing what comes out through emotion, and I have determined that President Zelenskyy is not ready for peace if America is involved, because he feels our involvement gives him a big advantage in negotiations. I don't want advantage. I want peace. He disrespected the United States of America in his cherished Oval Office. He can come back when he is ready for peace. And Zelenskyy will be talking to Bret Baier at 6 p.m. Eastern time tonight, just less than 1 hour from now. Jesse, this feels like one of those moments in history where we will all remember exactly where we were when we watched that go down. Now I'll ask you the question we're left wondering, will they get to a deal?
Hopefully. It's kind of like when you want to propose, so you go to the girlfriend's dad, you go into his house. Can I have your blessing? And he goes, well, do you have any money for a ring? Nope. Do you have a job? Nope. Do you have a house? Nope. And then you start arguing with the dad and he kicks you out of the house and you go back to the girlfriend. The girlfriend's like, well, how did it go? Not good. It did not go very well. Zelenskyy screwed up. 30 minutes before this happened, everything was fine. Everyone was getting along fine. And then a reporter asked Trump about aligning with Russia. Trump says, I'm just aligned with America and I'm aligned with the world. And then Vance jumps in and he says, well, you know, you can talk tough and beat your chest, but that's not going to help us with diplomacy. And then Zelenskyy, out of nowhere, zeroes in on Vance. And he says, you don't know anything about diplomacy. What do you know about diplomacy? You can't negotiate with Putin. He can't be trusted. He violates ceasefires. Well, then what are we all doing here? Why did he fly all the way here to sign this mineral deal if you can't negotiate with Vladimir Putin? What's the whole point of this? We're not going to give Zelenskyy a security pact. It's not in America's interest to have to defend that country with American soldiers if Russia goes back in. The mineral deal is the best security that Zelensky's ever going to get. And if you didn't like the language of the deal, stay in Kiev. Hash it out for another week and then fly here. Don't fly here and get all emotional. We run the world. This is America's world. He's our proxy. This ends when we say it ends. It doesn't end when Zelenskyy, if he wants to go it alone, go it alone. I'm glad we helped him. Russia invaded. We got his back. At first, it was the right thing to do. But now it's not. Now the war's over, and he doesn't recognize it's over. And reality is going to eat this guy alive if he doesn't recognize this. If you were in the room when Roosevelt was telling Churchill to liquidate his colonies, I don't think it was all tea and crumpets. Or if you were Bush yelling at Musharraf when Al-Qaeda was in Pakistan, no. Or Bibi getting his ear chewed out by Joe Biden. This stuff happens all of the time behind the scenes. We were just lucky enough to have it happen right in front of the cameras.
You know, it was fascinating. Thank you for that, Jesse. Emily, when we were getting live reports from the White House, while Zelenskyy and Trump had finished this meeting, and we were waiting to see what happened next, Jackie Heinrich stepped up to the camera to give us a report and said she had learned that Zelenskyy was begging to stay but got kicked out. And shortly thereafter, we saw exactly that. We saw Zelenskyy very quickly after this concluded exiting the White House along with his staff.
Exactly. And to that point, there was a gap in time that was longer in reality than we saw on television because we had to ingest that footage, right? It wasn't live. So there was sort of a significant moment in between what we saw and Zelenskyy exiting the White House that I think portends the future of this relationship between those two, which is the need for an apology and an acknowledgement of the role the United States is playing. Now, I think what we saw was someone who has, for many years, bared the brunt, obviously, of Putin's aggression, and his exhaustion and his wit's end and his rage was showing. But for him to ascribe on the current administration's shoulders the utter failures and the invertebrate approach of prior administrations was so wrong. And the most wrong tactic was, in Vice President Vance's words, litigating it in front of the American media. That was not the time or place to have that outburst. And I think all it did was underscore for everyone watching, for the millions watching, how deeply fragile and important diplomacy is and that it doesn't always look tidy. And for President Trump to sit there and for them to entertain that question, that pushback on, what do you know about diplomacy? And they said, look, there's a new sheriff in town. So I know that your experience with Putin has been such, but let us tell you what our experience has been. For that to be all played out in front of the American media live, and for President Zelenskyy to have, frankly, his sort of mercurial behavior always played out, always harnessing the American public's sentiment by way of the harnessing of American media is totally inappropriate in the Oval Office of the presidency of someone that you are trying to have on your side. And recall that the UK Defense Secretary who says, well, America needs to have that backstop. You know, we believe in upping all the spending, but we still need America to be the backstop. We don't have to be, actually. And economics is indeed the backstop that we're going to commit to. So here, what happens moving forward is that America needs to stay strong because we are signaling to Putin and China exactly what happens if you come on our turf and disrespect us.
You know, Jessica, a lot will be said about the public nature of this. these fiery exchanges happening in the Oval Office. And the many guests we had immediately following the breaking news, there were some who seriously embraced it and some who thought it's not a good look to have this happen on the global stage in such a public way. Where are you?
I think I could see both sides, I guess, of the public face of it. I think Jesse's right that usually this is hashed out in private, but this is a president who loves doing things in public, and he's a TV guy, and he made for great TV there. And we're going to talk more in the B block about the various reactions to it and how much this ultimately benefits Putin and how he was so excited to see this interaction. And I'm sure that is the case. But the idea that Zelenskyy, whose people have fought bravely for 3 years against a authoritarian adversary that invaded, that has taken an advantage at every single turn, has been nothing but a patriot, said even just last weekend that he would resign if it meant that they could get into NATO, right? That was after the accusation from President Trump, J.D. Vance, et cetera, that he was the one who's a dictator, that he was the one that it was Ukraine's fault that all of this happens, when we all know, or anyone who's being honest, that it was definitely Putin's fault. And Jesse's right. The moment where Zelenskyy gets animated is when J.D. Vance asks him to just take it, to just sit there and go along with the idea that Vladimir Putin wasn't the aggressor in this, or the idea that Vladimir Putin is a diplomatic partner. Vladimir Putin is not a diplomatic partner for anybody. So you had a patriotic world leader defending his people and defending the thousands of lives, tens of thousands of lives that have been lost to all of this.
Neither Stalin, neither's Mao. Sometimes you have to do deals with bad guys.
But
Jessica.
he's not. America in life has done some deals with some bad guys, but that isn't what's going on here. And Donald Trump revealed himself. I thought the most shocking part was that Trump goes on to say, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt. And people have been saying since the beginning of this, since Donald Trump came on the world stage, that he is aligned with Putin. We saw in Helsinki in 2018 when he stood up there and he sided with Putin over the intelligence agencies. He says, well, Putin told me he didn't do it. He told me he didn't meddle in the election. And then are you comfortable with an American president saying Putin went through a hell of a lot with me? Are they buddies?
I went through a hell of a lot with you, Jessica, with the Russia.
Okay, making a joke of it means that I made a valid point, just for the viewers at home.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Take it to Charlie.
So, obviously the whole thing was pretty amazing. It was great TV. It was pretty shocking. I've never seen anything like it. But one of the reasons it was so shocking and so amazing is because it's the first time we've ever seen an American president stand up and deal with the situation in Ukraine completely from an American perspective, standing up for American interests, American taxpayers' interests, Americans' strategic interests. And we've just never seen it. So it was kind of shocking. And probably the most shocked person was Zelenskyy himself. He couldn't believe it. He'd never dealt with an American official who cared primarily, first and foremost, about Americans and American interests. And so he was completely blown off. And I think that one of the things that's kind of interesting about, and obviously, and you all are exactly right about that, the moment that set him off was, that set Trump off, was when Zelenskyy dialed in to into J.D. Vance, which, by the way, is a really weak move. You go for the vice president.
But he's the one who said it to him.
Okay, but that's who you start your fight with. And then, and this is the thing, I think, Trump knows a lot of people who are not good deal makers. He can deal with them. He can work with them. The idea that you would have a guy that is not only not a good deal maker, he has no idea how few cards he has when he walks into this room. Mm-hmm. He has no idea how few options, zero options he has. And he walks in here and he's arrogant and he's pushy and he's demanding. And you pile all that up and you're going to piss off Trump. And what we saw there was a pissed off Trump. So you have somebody, and it's been going on for a long time, where you have this person who is bilking the American taxpayers for hundreds of billions of dollars, and most Americans can't really tell you what our interest is over there.
Can I just add to that about the money and all of this. Obviously, we have given them a ton of money, but 70% of the aid that we have sent to Ukraine has then been spent back in America. So when he, quote unquote, went and campaigned for the Democrats, that he was visiting a munitions factory that was producing weapons that they could then use. And Europe has been, as a share of GDP, almost doubling our investment.
So I'm not an economist, but the idea that you're going to take hundreds of billions of dollars of Americans' taxpayer dollars and light them on fire in Europe, I don't think that helps anybody. All it does is lead to inflation.
All right, save
and more
for the
debt.
next block because we've got more on this coming up.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, Laura. And it was incredibly tense in that room, and things turned bad and bitter very quickly because, unfortunately, President Zelenskyy refuses to recognize the pragmatic reality about the war that his country is facing. This war has been going on for years. His countrymen are dying. And most of all, President Zelenskyy failed to recognize that he's walking into the Oval Office with a new sheriff in town. And that sheriff is Donald Trump. And he is a peacemaker in chief. He wants this war to end. And he understands that his people, the American people, are sick and tired of footing the bill for this war to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars. And so it's very unfortunate for the Ukrainian people and for President Zelenskyy that he walked in with this mindset of give from the American people without much gratitude for what the American people have done for his country over the past few years. And so he was on the brink of signing an economic agreement that would have ensured economic prosperity for the Ukrainian people and recouped American tax dollars for funding this war. Instead, because of his rude and antagonistic ways, the deal blew up in his face. President Trump wants peace. He remains committed to that. But President Zelenskyy either needs to change his attitude or perhaps he can't make a deal at all.
Well, Caroline, we're hearing different narratives tonight, but is President Trump in the mood at all to revisit this mineral deal, given what happened earlier today?
Well, I think the president remains committed to peace, and he wants to see this war end. That has been the president's intention all along. Don't forget, he talked about this extensively on the campaign trail as soon as he was elected on November 5th, before he was even inaugurated. He talked to Zelenskyy. His team started negotiations to end this war, and more has been done in a month by President Trump and his team to move towards a tangible and lasting peace than the previous 3 years under the
Caroline,
past
back to that.
administration.
I'm sorry to interrupt. But Caroline, I'm talking about the deal. Of course, you were all set up. You had the table set up, the room set up to sign that mineral deal.
That's right.
And what now?
Well, we'll have to see, and it's up to President Trump, the next move that he makes. But I think he made it very clear today in asking President Zelenskyy and the Ukrainians to leave the White House that Zelenskyy is not in the right mindset. And again, the minerals deal was an economic framework, and it was the first step towards a peace deal. But Zelenskyy came into the Oval Office talking about security guarantees, talking about what Europe wants to do. Well, the president has been talking to Europe, too. He had the leaders of France and the UK here this week precisely to talk about how to end this war. And so, again, it's unfortunate circumstances for President Zelenskyy, but the president is not going to back down in doing what's right for the American people. And that's what this economic partnership was. It would have recouped the hundreds of billions of dollars that we've funded towards this war, and it would have been good for the Ukrainian people as well.
Caroline, Susan Rice and others tonight have said that this was an ambush, a setup, that this was the plan all along for Vance and Trump to go at him and create this drama. Your response?
That's absolutely not true. President Trump was excited about this economic agreement. And it was President Zelenskyy, if you roll the tape, who actually antagonized the vice president in front of the cameras and picked a fight with him. And as President Trump said, I think it was great that the cameras were rolling because the American people and the entire world got to see what President Trump and his team have been dealing with behind closed doors in the negotiations with the Ukrainians. They've been, again, incredibly hard-headed, and all President Trump wants is peace. And in order to negotiate peace, both sides have to come to the table. Both sides have to talk, and both sides in a good deal usually walk away a little unhappy. President Zelenskyy fails to recognize that. And again, this is not the previous administration. Joe Biden is no longer in that Oval Office. We are no longer going to just write blank checks to a war very far away without real, lasting peace. And that's what the president wants.
Caroline, who made the decision to cancel the lunch? How did that go down, and did you have any of it?
Well, the president enjoyed the lunch. He figuratively and literally ate President Zelensky's lunch today. But it was his decision. He felt as though President Zelenskyy was not in a place to negotiate peace at this point in time.
Yeah, there wasn't any nervous energy in the room when it all started. I mean, it started out as a normal Oval Office spray, as we call it here at the White House. And then you could really start to see, as the questions went on, you could really start to feel the divide and the mood change between President Trump and President Zelenskyy when they started moving into the security question. Now, one of the questions that really changed the mood in the room was when President Trump was asked about this, or was talking about this overall economic deal and how that would provide long-term security guarantees for Ukraine. You could then see President Zelenskyy start to shake his head no. President Zelenskyy had a message then for President Trump a little bit later on when he was talking about he wants to see concrete security guarantees and would like to see, behind it all, you could tell he wanted to see more weapons, guarantee of more weapons, U.S. coming into Ukraine. But the security guarantees is really where this shifted and changed, and you felt the mood just turn south very quickly.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's been a lot of these questions all throughout the week in the Oval Office meetings with the leaders of France and the UK as well, Edward, which I know you've been covering all along. But this question about the backstop. So what is the backstop? And President Trump, I think several times, said the backstop is our economic presence on the ground. But Zelenskyy doesn't like that. He doesn't like that answer. So he's pushing for, as you say, more weapons and a backstop that means potentially boots on the ground, it sounds like.
And it's interesting. In the Oval Office, the president said, I talked with the French President Macron, talked with the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Both said they would put European troops on the ground when there's a peace deal. But Zelenskyy, again, saying that's not a good enough, basically saying that's not a good enough backstop. That's not a good enough security guarantee. He wanted to see more. You know, incidentally, I was in Kyiv with the Treasury Secretary when he first presented this deal to Zelenskyy, and the Treasury Secretary said that they also had a heated emotional exchange behind closed doors when this was laid, and he related to President Zelenskyy that this was your best option at security long term with the United States. And that was the president's message today. Long term, this is the option for security guarantees.
You know, it's interesting, Edward, that you bring that up because the knowledge that Zelenskyy blew up at Scott Bessent, who President Trump respects greatly and who he sent as his emissary with this deal. You know, obviously he had that in his mind going into this meeting, that he had just blown up over this deal at the Treasury Secretary.
Yeah, and Scott Bessent was in the room for the Oval Office for this one. So, yeah, he was well aware of what happened.